Once again, it's Kennard, Vernon, and Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football here for another CarCast. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. A lot of good news surrounding the Auburn program today. Now, I'm going to start this video out talking about some really important stuff as it relates to Auburn football. A lot of times, those underlying behind the scenes positions that folks really don't think about, but then when they see the product on the field, they're like, well, what the hell is this? Okay, I'm going to get into that in a second. What's going to happen when the Auburn basketball team gets Justin Powell back, who's been out with a concussion? There was some tweets today that said that he has gotten back kind of on the practice scene. Didn't say whether he was practicing or not. But I definitely believe that it will be nice down the stretch for Sharife Cooper, who has had a sensational, absolutely sensational debut in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, emerging as one of the better point guards in the country and could possibly be a one and done at Auburn. Now, I think Sharife Cooper could possibly stay with the ambition to actually lead Auburn to a deep tournament appearance. I think that could possibly happen, especially with the length that Auburn has and with the experience that they will have, because they were absolutely fearless against Baylor. Some costly mistakes between especially the beginning of the third quarter, not third quarter, but the beginning of the first half, midway through. They made some crucial mistakes, missed some free throws that kind of allowed Baylor to get a little bit more confidence, especially with their experience, and kind of pull that game away. But the guys never gave up. And I will say that if there was a little bit more time left, we might have had the opportunity to have a little bit more of a dramatic finish in that game. One thing that I do know is it was definitely an educational opportunity for Sharife Cooper to understand that the sample size. I think the sample size as far as what he produces on the court and how teams are going to scout him. Because I'll say this, if Baylor would have caught Sharife Cooper, say, in the first 2 games of his debut, they might have had a little bit more trouble out of Sharife Cooper. But because they had a little bit of sample size, a little bit of film study to acknowledge his tendencies, they were able to put him in some really adverse positions in that game. And I think that will probably go down for Sharife Cooper as one of the defining games of his career, because he faced some adversity. He kind of succumbed to the adversity, but down the stretch, he started to kind of figure out what they were doing to him. And that's going to, make him a little bit more of a steward of his craft. Big shout out to Sharife Cooper. I really enjoyed the Auburn game against Baylor. Hate that the Tigers lost, but they lost to a pretty good basketball team in Baylor. Are they the number 2 team in the country? It is what it is, but they have a very, very solid basketball team. So let's talk about this recruiting. Auburn has had a recruiting surge here in the last few days, which I think is going to pay dividends for the Tigers. Big time recruiting going on. And I'm very intrigued and very excited to see what's going to happen on the National Signing Day here in a couple of days. Now, when I talked about the positions that are taken for granted, that are really overlooked, and for the casual fan, they don't know about this stuff. When you look at the Auburn program, you see all this personnel stuff. You see all this supporting staff, all these people, and you're like, what the hell do they do? I think one of the most important positions as far as off the field administrative positions for the Auburn Tigers is the recruiting coordinator. And I'm going to tell you what the recruiting coordinator has to do. Number one, they have to prioritize regionally, as far as geographically, who the targets are. They also have to help out with roster management. And when I talk about roster management, the plot kind of thickens a little bit, because now guys are able to hit the transfer portal at the blink of an eye. Then you have to look at some of your upperclassmen, say the juniors and the seniors. Well, not the seniors, but the juniors slash sophomores who might declare early. You have to take into account all that stuff. So communicating on a high level is very important. Now, who Bryan Harsin has given this particular position is Darren Ursher. Ursher was his guy at Boise State. They did a wide range of recruiting. They definitely hit the California market up. They hit all over the country. They had the benefit of, people talk about this all the time, and they don't want to acknowledge it, is the branding. Boise State had the Nike brand. They had different uniforms. I don't care what y'all say. Players want to look good when they play football. Boise State looked good when they played football. They had alternate uniforms. They probably played in a different uniform every freaking week. And Darren Ursher is going to bring that same experience, that same blue-collar work ethic that he had to have at Boise State to Auburn. And it's going to be very important for Auburn to really nail this recruiting thing down and get a little bit more diverse and get a little bit more creative in how they recruit. Because if you look at the backyard of where Auburn is located proximity-wise, they're right in the middle of Alabama, University of Alabama. They're right in the middle of Florida State. They're right in the middle of Georgia, Georgia Tech. And even schools in Alabama can recruit pretty well. You got UAB, Troy State, then you have all the local colleges. So Auburn has a lot of competition when it comes to recruiting. So this is going to be a position, I want y'all to remember this name, because it's going to be an important position as to where this recruiting coordinator deal, as to where Auburn is positioned in recruiting. Now, they did do a pretty decent job of expanding their recruiting territory out in Texas, got some guys from Kansas, and it's going to be important, like I said before, for Auburn to really, really get aggressive and to have no fear. And the outcome of this season is going to determine how well Auburn fares in the recruiting, from a recruiting standpoint moving forward. Now, do I think just Bryan Harsin's presence, I think he presents himself very well. I think he's a very marketable head coach. I think he can keep it real with the players as to what the state of the program now and what Auburn could possibly do moving forward. Jaron Handy even went on to say, hey, man, these guys are real deal. Jaron Handy, the defensive lineman from Mississippi, said that, hey, these guys are on point. He gave praises to the brand new coaching staff. So Auburn recruiting, the last couple of days, Auburn got exactly what they needed. They got an offensive lineman from North Carolina who had originally pledged to Tennessee, but we know all the dumpster fire stuff that Tennessee has going on. So he's like, no, I don't want to do that. He commits to Auburn as an offensive lineman, not a really high in as far as stars go, offensive lineman, but definitely a recruit that Auburn definitely needed. And I think it was a really good win for the Tigers here today. But more important, Auburn is transitioning to a 3-4 defense, trending towards where you need to have a lot of depth at the linebacker position. So what does Auburn do? Auburn gets to work. Bryan Harsin with his staff, they get to work. They recruit Joko Willis out of Independence Community College. I think he originally committed to Kentucky, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm just wrong. But he's 6'3", 215 pounds, has the attributes definitely that Auburn needs to make this defense work. And we'll do a little breakdown on him a little bit later on. But definitely somebody, a linebacker that Auburn needs. And big shout out to Travis Williams, former Auburn Tiger, former linebacker coach, former co-defensive coordinator, who was not retained on Bryan Harsin's staff, will now go to Miami. What a huge thing for Travis Williams. I think this will give him the opportunity to enhance his coaching even to another level. This will be the second former assistant of Gus Malzahn, who has gone to Miami. Definitely a blue blood team, at least from a fan base standpoint. There are a lot of people cross country, don't even live in Florida, that are Miami Hurricanes fans. And I think this is a huge, huge opportunity for Travis Williams, who will be the inside linebacker coach for Miami, to take his show on the road and to really show what he can do. Y'all better keep your heads on a swivel. It's about to go down in the next couple of days when this National Signing Day happens. Really intrigued as to what Auburn will be able to do as they try to trend in a different direction with 2021 recruiting. Okay, this is what I need you to do. I don't care if you don't like it. I hope that you do. But I want you to flood this comment section up, talking about Auburn basketball, talking about the recruiting coordinator, talking about the 2 recruits that Auburn has picked up today, and Travis Williams, big-time Auburn Tiger, who has taken the job as a inside linebackers coach at the University of Miami. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.